had his little oopsie with that destiny. And I guess Haru, not to be outdone, just looked for an equally egregious looking teleport into that fight. That was really not great at all. WE winning out the fight, getting the dragon, and that will be sole point for them for the time being. I want to see how this fight initially started, because we didn't actually see it as we were in replay. Just instant lockdown onto Keshi. They immediately remove one of the marksmen as a threat, which is something we said this comp was really good at doing, just eliminating and dealing with both of them. And then on, Realm warps forward, so honestly, to a certain degree, both of these marksmen got themselves killed.
On just loves to break all the Sacred Israel rules, and I'm kind of here for it, except for the fact that most of the time it's hurt him in this game by this point. I'd also like to nominate, I know we're still searching for our next James Bond. Can I nominate Monkey at this point? The dude's found some very double-O-esque pop-outs to just find these key carries. We talked about the pick on the Junhao in the early game, but you could tell Keshi did not see Monkey coming to start off that entire sequence.
Certainly did not. And now Monkey, I mean, he's got like a little net under the tightrope, if you will, because Guardian Angel has been completed for him, so he can keep looking for these extremely daring stunts of these engages and these 007 missions, like you're mentioning. As this is not really a 007 mission. This is just in broad daylight, trying to get a kill. Haru forced to flash, but will not die, which is important because Baron is up. If you get a pick at this point in the game, it'll be right on to that objective.
It is a lot harder now for Haru to make that high-octane Tibbers stun go down. Doesn't have Rocket Belt either, so neither anti-dash is available. Does at least have the Seekers if he can get himself in position. But right now, it's Team WE pushing Thunder Talk back into a stack because the threat of Destiny and, well, Kara's flanking with the yellow card is scary enough. Arcane Shift has to be used there by On as the stun will land. TT trying to pile drive through the mid lane to get control of this map. Haru going to join back up with the team, and LPL seems to be taking a page out of the NA Ram book. Junhao going to get yellow card stun. Junhao going to re-engage with the Crescent Guard. Gets a ton of damage down on the Monkey, who still had that GA. Cube re-engaged on, pops the Dominus off to the side. About punishing onto On. And Keshi, who gets caught with the cease and desist, and About finds the kill as Monkey reses back to a victorious pick play. Cube going to look for Junhao, who flashes away from About, but these light-slinging shots from About are not to be messed with as he flashes under the turret to find two. And Monkey will clean up one kill on, and down falls Haru, ace to Team WE.
And it's the tightrope that lets Monkey he walks it perfectly. He's got the net under him of the Guardian Angel. The stunts he is pulling off in this game, Slayer. My man is making it happen. The Monkey style is shining through here, as this is the value of having rapid fire cannon, by the way. Super long range stun, basically forces Junhao. He knows he can't really run away, so he decides to get the fight started. This gives the opening over to Monkey, flashes over, gets the ult off. Guardian Angel is going to save him, and TT get expertly pulled apart by the mid-jungle combo of WE. The focus of this team going into this series, they make magic happen here in game number 2.
I just love to see About knowing his life doesn't matter anymore. I can get these 3 kills. Doesn't, of course, get the 3rd one, but his team cleans it up. That's when you know things are going well, and have to harken back to how rough of a start this was for About in this series. That Varus left a lot to be desired. Good to see him fully mentally resetting and then some, maybe bringing some of that anger from the game 1 loss over into this one.
About, I think, even during the break, Slayer, we were criticizing this guy. A lot of his positioning in game number 1 was really questionable. And I think here in game number 2, he certainly had a redemption game. Certainly is putting on a show.
Oh, the blast cone creates enough distance away from the encore. Junhao sees
About
on top of him. About off to the side, finds Keshi. A huge heal comes down from Arha. A lifeline in the blinking moments. About is able to get the kills the Team WE may need to just force this game 3. Haru trying to kite desperately away, but he will fall. There's the ace. Arha playing the role of a Team WE over the line and to bring us in to a final game 3 to decide our series between ThunderTalk and Team WE.
I was getting some flashbacks there for a second, Slayer, about in a 1v3 misposition from the rest of his team, but he was so far ahead, he said, nah, I'll win. And he did. Survived that fight, and Team WE, with a bit of a shaky game, but otherwise, I would say it was just as convincing as ThunderTalk's win in game number 1.
Just as convincing indeed. Both these teams now kind of getting away with exactly what we'd expect to see from them in successful positions, which is bringing some sort of lead into the mid-game and never really looking back. And both of the times, it was pretty darn entertaining there, Quacks.
It was, for sure. And, you know, we didn't ask for anything less or more. We wanted a WE ThunderTalk WrestleMania style match where they're just constantly going blow for blow with one another. I think it's delivered, to be honest with you. I have been having a ton of fun watching and casting these games with you, my friend, because they're playing to their style. We're not seeing any punches pulled. They are going and indexing fully into the comfort of the way that they have been playing throughout the entire year. They haven't changed up a single thing, and I certainly hope they won't stop now. As game number 3, just pull out all the stops for me. Please make this finale one to remember.
Quacks, now I'm just seeing the continued trend of the R5 pick being the most pivotal one for both of these teams.
It's a good pattern recognition.
Yeah, that Cassante
đối với rắn hổ chúa ấy, thì cái mang bành rất là dọc này, các bạn thấy không? Thì khi một con rắn giận dữ thì nó có thể ngóc 1/4 cái chiều dài cơ thể lên luôn. Như các bạn thấy rồi, rắn hổ chúa thì cái phần đuôi nó sẽ rất là giống với rắn hổ trâu, nhưng mà rắn hổ trâu thì cái đầu rất là nhỏ, nên là
cọc ở đấy
các bạn
thôi
nhìn thấy một con rắn hổ trâu thì các bạn phân biệt được đó là rắn hổ trâu ngay. Còn đối với rắn hổ chúa thì cái đầu rất là to, nên các cái bắt rắn nó không thể nào mà bẫy rắn hoặc là lưới bẫy rắn để mà bắt được một rắn hổ chúa ha. Thì khi mà nhìn vào cái đoạn đuôi thì các bạn có thể nhầm lẫn sang rắn hổ trâu, nhưng mà khi mà các bạn thấy một con rắn dài 3,5 mét và có thể bành mang như thế này thì đó là một con rắn hổ chúa chứ không phải rắn hổ trâu ha. Thì như lúc nãy mình nói với các bạn đó, thì rắn hổ chúa là một cỗ máy giết chóc nha. Tại vì đó là lý do tại sao mà một con rắn hổ chúa có thể ăn được một con kỳ đà, hoặc là ăn được tất cả các loại rắn độc khác, ví dụ như là rắn hổ mang này, cặp nong, cặp nia. Đó là những loại rắn độc khét tiếng mà các bạn biết đúng không? Rắn hổ chúa có thể ăn được tất cả các loại rắn đó luôn. Và rất là nhiều các bạn hỏi mình là rắn hổ chúa có thể kháng được nọc độc của các loại khác không? Thì mình trả lời là có nha. Rắn hổ chúa có thể kháng được nọc độc của các loài khác. Nhưng kháng ở đây không phải là cắn và không bị gì hết. Rắn hổ chúa vẫn bị sưng, vẫn bị mệt, vẫn bị tác động bởi nọc độc của các loài rắn khác. Chỉ có là rắn hổ chúa không dễ để mà bị giết chết bởi một con rắn độc khác thôi. Còn cái việc mà
phép cao
các cái tác dụng của nọc độc lên rắn hổ chúa thì nó vẫn có tác dụng ha.
Đúng là hổ chúa có khác.
Thì nãy giờ
rắn
làm phiền bạn rắn hổ chúa này rất là nhiều rồi. Thì chỉ cần nhìn sơ qua thôi thì các bạn đã biết được rắn hổ chúa, rắn hổ mang khác nhau nhiều như thế nào.
Cảm ơn Thịnh nhá.
Mình sẽ
tím là đại.
Cất bạn rắn hổ chúa này đi, giữ bạn hổ chúa này lại và
tím là đại nha.
Nội dung tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ được xem cái nội dung mà mình đi thả bạn rắn hổ chúa này, và mình sẽ giới thiệu với các bạn các bạn trẻ mà đã thuyết phục gia đình, thuyết phục người thân để mà thả bạn rắn hổ chúa này về với môi trường tự nhiên, và gia đình đã đồng ý và không bán và không mua bán và không giết mổ bạn rắn này, để mà bạn rắn này có cơ hội để về với cái ngôi nhà của mình ha. Ok, tạm biệt các bạn và hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong các nội dung tiếp theo. Một vấn đề nữa là đây là những kỹ năng rất là cao. Đây là những cái kỹ năng đòi hỏi bạn phải có quá trình học tập và rèn luyện, cộng với may mắn nữa.
Anh
thì
cứ lo gặp mấy con như này chạy 8 đời.
Không phải thầy bà, mình không phải thầy bùa, không phải
anh cứ lo.
Mình không có một cái yếu tố đặc biệt nào hết. Chỉ có thông qua việc học tập và học hiểu hành vi của rắn thôi.
Gặp mấy con này chạy 8 đời rồi chứ.
Vì vậy nên là nếu các bạn không có người hướng dẫn, hoặc các bạn không có đủ thời gian quá trình, các bạn không có đủ kỹ năng để làm việc với rắn độc, thì các bạn tuyệt đối không được tiếp xúc gần như thế này với một con rắn hổ chúa nha. Thì chỉ cần phạm phải một cái sai lầm đơn giản thôi thì các bạn sẽ phải trả giá rất là nhiều, có thể là một cánh tay, một cánh chân, hoặc là tính mạng của mình. Vậy ha, tạm biệt các bạn. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong các nội dung tiếp theo. Bye bye.
Má đúng là sứ giả rừng xanh có khác. Đúng là sứ giả rừng xanh có khác. Mo à. Nãy có người gửi clip cho anh là ảnh bị rắn cắn này.
Vàng xa lộ đi tù.
Không có phim coi. Bây giờ có thể hiện kỳ tích thôi. Tàng hình. Đánh cho tận đây luôn đấy. Ê, biết là anh không chạy về đây, lòn về đây nhỉ? À nhưng mà vẫn chết. Đâu có được về hồi máu đâu. Đâu có được về hồi máu đâu. Ở đây lòn về đây nhỉ?
Tu tiên 7 núi, câu đó không phải để nói. Người xưa thường nói tu Phật Phú Yên, tu tiên 7 núi, câu đó không phải để nói chơi. Vì vùng Thất Sơn, 7 núi ở An Giang từ lâu đã nổi danh là nơi linh thiêng, huyền bí, có núi cao, rừng rậm, suối trong, chùa chiền u tịch và rất nhiều đạo sĩ ẩn tu. Ở nơi đây với biết bao nhiêu câu chuyện được truyền qua nhiều thế hệ, chuyện thần linh hiển hiện, chuyện ma trơi dẫn lối, chuyện cọp thần giữ núi, và đặc biệt là chuyện rắn hổ mây khổng lồ bò qua núi cấm. Ở nơi đây có những con rắn to bằng gốc chuối quạ, 4 năm gang tay người, thân dài hàng chục thước, dãy xám bạc lấp lánh như mây trời, mắt vàng đỏ như than hồng. Chúng trường qua triền đá, bóng dài phủ kín cả một khoảnh rẫy, chúng đi đâu cỏ rạp đến đó, thú rừng im bặt. Có kẻ cho rằng đó chỉ là lời thêu dệt, những người sống lâu năm ở núi thì khẳng định, thấy tận mắt rồi, run tới lạnh xương sống, chớ đâu phải chuyện chơi. Câu chuyện tôi kể đây không phải để hù dọa, cũng không phải để khoe khoang, mà là để ai một lần ghé đất An Giang, nghe hơi thở núi rừng, sẽ hiểu thêm cái hồn thiên của xứ sở này. Bởi rắn hổ mây khổng lồ không chỉ là con vật, mà là biểu tượng của sự thiêng liêng, của mối giao hòa giữa con người với đất trời Thất Sơn. Các bạn đừng quên nhấn thích like, ủng hộ và đăng bình luận, phát nhiều vì sự ủng hộ của bạn. Tu Phật Phú Yên, tu tiên bảy núi. Nghe tưởng chơi chữ, chứ thật ra nó hàm chứa cái niềm tin bao đời. 7 ngọn núi ở xứ An Giang này, trời đất ban cho cái dáng thiêng liêng, chập trùng như bức bình phong chắn gió chắn mưa, ôm lấy ruộng đồng miền hạ lưu sông Cửu Long. Người
It also tells me that Thunder Talk might be looking to play a more engage heavy marksman if they do decide to go that route. Like you said, there is possibility for the Sindra to be flexed over to On, but like Kaisa is still available if you really wanted to go for that to join up with the Nautilus. The Alistair ban, I think, just further reinforces that TT really want to play an engage, strike first, proactive style going into this third game.
What does this last Team WE ban look like? Definitely a lot of deliberation coming down the way for this one, and oh, well, that's never a good sign. Somebody missed a ban, and I fear we are gonna have to reload this draft in a second here, Quacks, unless everyone's gonna whisper and understand what that ban is, and then we just have to be out of the loop, and that's even worse.
Just widens the pool of the guessing game, and I was kind of hoping that you were right, that we would just move on and under the table understand that, you know, there was just one champion, that we didn't know what the ban would be, but we would just accept that it existed anyway. But no, we're gonna redo the draft, and that means you get to see our lovely faces for a little bit longer, Slayer.
That's true. That's true. And we get more time to deliberate how maybe these compositions will look to interact. You talked a bit about the marksman factor with the Kaisa. I do see that in this game, at least, there's once again a pretty heavy presence of crowd control in like all aspects when you really think about it, right? It's the scatter of the weak, then you factor in the depth charge, this Nautilus, but then on the other side you got Pantheon, you got Miasma from this Cassio, you have that Petrifying Gaze as well. So at least we know through the limited part of the draft we have seen that crowd control's not going to be an issue. The one thing I do outline is I do think this Cassio already has such innate value because Thunder Talk have champions that have to go in, like their primary role is to fly in, thinking about like the Nautilus, the Gnar, and that's always kind of what Cassiopeia wants you to do.
For sure. And I also think that Cassiopeia just makes it harder to react to Thunder Talk if they want to go for more snap engage tools, right? Because like you drop down a Sky's Descend and then a Miasma follows through. You can't flash away from the Pantheon presence. You can't dash away from the Pantheon presence. I think that it just makes the engage that Thunder Talk might want to go for a little bit more potent because the reaction from Team WE isn't really to its fullest effectiveness because of that spell. So I think that the Cassiopeia just makes it easier for the rest of TT to find those angles, which was something they maybe struggled with a little bit in game number 2, but really thrived in game number 1. I think that's been the big difference maker between these two games, Slayer. And again, it kind of harkens back to the jungle matchup we hyped at the beginning of this series, where both of these guys really are the engine that get this team going. I think in game number 1, we had a lot of that from Junhao. In game number 2, we had a lot of that from Monkey. And now, going into this third game, both junglers can very easily start up fights, can both very easily devolve the game into chaos at their own leisure.
If we, want to try and simplify the games a bit here and factor that into the Game 3 draft, well, we've seen that through 2 games, it feels like the team in this matchup that has better ability to overload or play the map, have more map pressure, right? Be able to get more numbers quicker to wherever the point of contention is, has been successful. We talk about the good realm warps we saw from Haru in the early of Game 1. The Stand United threat that Feather brought was really a lot to get Thunder Talk going. And then our Game 2 MVP was Karis, because we felt like the entire mid-game, this guy could just pop up wherever Team W wanted to fight, or even where Thunder Talk wanted to fight, and would erase those troubles. So in this Game 3, I see a Pantheon. And, if you want to go off that more simplistic logic, start to favor Team WE. But, of course, we need to solve the rest of this draft, and luckily we are speeding through those picks now, and we'll soon find out, Quacks, what that final ban was that Team WE missed.
So gotta throw through 3 out of 4 of these bans just really quickly before we get to the culprit. It's like in Scooby-Doo when they unmask the guy, who are you? Who are you, mystery ban? The Trundle, actually. So WE, interestingly enough, are going to be the ones to ban that away, because that is kind of a monkey special. But he's already picked up the Pantheon. I do really think that this is probably going to be Haru on the Syndra until proven otherwise. I think Wukong, is a good pickup here. But again, I think this just continues to add on to the value of the miasma, because now it's not just you being denied from getting away to use that decoy. You're now being denied opportunities to engage if you're Wukong getting hit by that miasma. So kind of a two-pronged attack here on just making Karis really effective with this Cassiopeia. See a Silas hover, and there's been a lot of mage shenanigans so far, Slayer. Funnily enough, neither of these players have been super acclimating when it comes to actually playing mages in the bot lane. So it'll be fun to see how that goes, because they aren't, they're big fans of the marksman. They're like you. They don't like the mages in the bot lane.
Quacks, but just like me, at a certain point, you got to adopt the shift.
You're just like everyone, though. I don't think there's a single marksman, to be honest with you, in the world that's like, I can't wait to wake up and play Ziggs tomorrow.
That's true. That is true indeed. I'm most hyped to see the Karis in such a important game. Once I'm sure the swap will come across, is going back to his roots here with a melee mid on the Silas. There's so many valuable ults to steal, but again, thinking back to how valuable the R5 pick has been in this series specifically, you can never be mad about a Galio lock-in with a mage in the bottom lane here. So Haru now is going to be a really hard problem for TT to solve, or for Team WE to solve, because Yorick isn't that reliable of an AD threat in team fights. If Monkey can get, off and running early, sure, can help solve that Galio problem, but that is a ticking time bomb waiting on the TT mid lane side.
And both of these marksman players, like I said, not been super acclimatized when it comes to the newish meta of mages. So I think this bot lane focus is really something that I'll be paying attention to, not just because of the switch up from the players individually, but also, as you mentioned, Slayer, the grander scheme of the comps being tailor-made to make it difficult for them to actually dish out that damage later on into the game. Things like the Galio being able to prevent some of those one-shots and really just put a wrench in the scaling of both of these comps. But I also agree with you that I think the side lane pressure from one of these teams is significantly better. You've got the Pantheon, you've got the Yorick, and I just think that adds an extra layer that might not be present for the team without the Yorick and the Pantheon.
Well, all that and more compact into one final game. Team WE and Thunder Talk play for the series. I couldn't tell if there was more Jaios individually from each fan or pings out of this early game from these two teams. My lord, there was a lot trying to just track any early game shenanigans, but our bottom lanes reside all the same at the start here. And of course, we can take a look at maybe how our junglers will factor into this one. Of course, both junglers definitely waiting to get access to that level 6, going to try and get there as soon as possible, but worth mentioning with both them pathing the same way, the Monkey with that first stun could be a bit more influential to any early ganks here.
Monkey does have the superior dueling power as the Pantheon, and frankly also has the superior clearing power early on in these levels here. So if WE can get Prio in the bot lane and mid lane, they should be able to secure that crab and get him closer to that level 6, which I agree with you, Slayer, is very, very important. But level 2 for Arha.
Yeah, good engagement, seen with Blade. A nice scatter there from On. Gonna make sure About can't sink his teeth deeper into that health pool. Still gonna allow him access to this wave early on, and 2W we're gonna have a shove as another Zenith Blade's gonna come out here. Arha just looking for these on repeats as that cooldown comes up, and it's always a good sign when you're forcing the Nautilus to dredge line himself to safety.
That's just the extended trading power of the Cassiopeia. It doesn't matter what lane she's in, doesn't matter what role she's playing. You have to respect that champion early on in this game, especially as something like a Syndra that has pretty long cooldowns in the early levels. Part of what makes Syndra such a dangerous threat in the late game is that her Q is on a -2 cooldown. But in these early phases, you got to be mindful of that, as we do see Arha maybe looking for something onto Haru.
Yeah, gonna Justice Punch create some distance, and the Zenith Blade was not positioned well enough to punish him. Arha likely just fishing for a flash off of this Galio, but will not come to fruition. Fruition is both of these bot lanes take their first resets, or actually just about did. Went for a cheeky little cheater. I like it. Just get that tier as early on as possible. Very funny how About is thinking the same way about Cassio as he did it on his Ezreal last game with the tier.
Yeah. But the big thing, important thing, is that the priority did actually manage to go in favor of Thunder Talk. So Junhao is going to be able to secure that bot side crab, maybe have a slight, very granular tempo lead over to Monkey as he channels the back faster, and might grow from granular to something significant. Monkey actually maybe fishing for something on the top side. Will be spotted out by a ward.
See a good little interrupt with the dredge line there from Feather onto the full Zenith Blade out of Arha, but it's still About finding the better trades into On. Monkey just flashed early to cut off the one escape point here for Keshi. Will flash, but the stun's going to land all the same, and there is no hop available for Keshi. Cube gets first blood.
All right, he makes the overstay worth it. I was a bit worried initially, because if he hop flashed, that would have surely created the distance for Nard to get under his turret and get out of danger, but they saw Keshi use that leap early, and I think they understand that it's on like a 20-second cooldown level 1, so they rightfully punish that and make it all worth it. Cube with the first blood, although Junhao already on his tier 2 Raptor, so will easily be the first one to the bot lane between the two junglers.
But still, such a valuable win con, more so in the fact that how a fed Cube could slow down this Undertalk comp that for all of its glory is about their big team fights later on. Right now, just a smaller fight around those respawn Raptors. We've seen so many huge skirmishes break out over here, but Monkey was not in position to contest, so just going to be more gold over to Junhao.
Monkey really just has to concede that he stayed, doesn't have the tempo in favor, and also About was under the turret at the time, so you would be down numbers on top of all of that. Will be giving up a camp for his transgressions in top lane earlier, as speaking of transgressions top lane, both top laners are going to be trading some ultimates just to get a little bit messy with one another.
The classic game of Ultimate Chicken, courtesy of the top laners. Always good to see here. Now Drake on the Rift. Both of these bottom lanes not yet over to level 6 just yet. On just going to crest over level 5, so no Petrifying Gaze yet, no Unleashed Power, and, well, no jungle attention towards that first Drake. It's instead Arha that's looking to once again roam onto this mid lane to see if he can disrupt Haru. who does not spot Arha just yet, and it might be too little too late. His Justice Punch is going to get canceled. Trying to walk back over towards his jungle. He's going to have to flash, and luckily the abduct. And Karis does not connect to further push that play over.
Good use of the vision there by Arha to hide himself, get to Haru as much as possible before he gets seen, but Junhao there, I think, deters Arha from going any further. Even after that flash is used, there might have been a Zenith Blade angle, but speaking of Wukong's presence...
Yep, he's got the Cyclone. Main and the Ghouls are doing some hella work, though, here for Cube. Keshi already used the Gnar ult, but he's down about half HP, and Junhao does not have the juice to make a Cube smoothie. Instead, it's Monkey and Karis to the rescue to turn this play on a dime and give Cube his second kill of the game.
I felt like some communication broke down there between the top jungle of TT. I mean, you saw Keshi's hesitancy to follow up with that play. The Gnar wasn't in the area.
Starfall! He's not in the area. He's not even in the zip code anymore. Quacks, he's back in the gray screen.
He is in the Death Realm, but not with Mordekaiser this time, just completely by himself, as even Junhao is respawned, so he's left that place for the time being. WE winning out in these skirmishes, and off reset, we can see Monkey with a pretty big item advantage already over the Wukong. Maybe can try and use that to leverage the Dragon as there's fighting in the bot side.
Goes pop for about. He's got the Twin Fang sinking deep into On. His Feather that's got a flash. Arha, Zenith Blade is going to split the uprights. Not find either On or Feather, but still about continuing to exert his will in this matchup. And Team WE, they're just finding wins basically on all fronts by this point here. Quacks 1.2k gold lead. And they've got the Grubs or the Dragon to play for. Grubs up about 20 seconds, so both those early objectives can be on the map virtually at the same time soon.
I think it's really important that they get Grubs, though. Anytime you have a Yorick comp, that split pushing pressure is something you have to be playing around, and Grubs obviously make that more of a threat. And it seems like Thunder Talk know that. Feather, but it ends in ER, okay? Give me a break. Roaming up toward this top lane, but it doesn't look like he is interested in staying. He's just going toward the mid lane and gonna go toward the bot side. So I think they just are saying, all right, we know we're weaker. We're gonna place down some vision, gather some information, and if they start up Grubs, maybe we can drag him, but he's just getting collapsed on.
Yep, or just pouncing Feather going on a Valiant warding mission. Karis gets on the board here, and like you talked about, Monkey is completely undisturbed, securing all three of these Grubs for Sweet Cube. This is kind of what we were afraid of going into this series. The fact that Karis and Cube, we felt like we're in apt matchup position-wise, and well, Karis just now takes over the gold lead. It's safe to say that top side we were afraid of in the first part of the draft has arrived, and then some, Quacks.
Junhao is really afraid to be looking for that red buff. Does not want to pull the trigger on it as teleport.
CP, Karis tries to flash out of the taunt. He does not get out of it. Depth Charge is going to land Cyclone. All these CC components stacking up on top of Karis. Can't get away from the second knock-up, and that is a very unfortunate teleport for Karis. At least his bottom lane has been able to kill off On. Monkey, though, have to flash away from Haru. The minion wave is gone. Haru having to take up turret shots here by this point, but is tanky enough to walk it on out. At least Thunder Talk are finally on the board, Quacks.
WE, though, do get a trade on that bot side. On goes down, and about actually being able to push in this wave, we'll get some plate money on top of that. So I still think it is actually in favor of WE when all is said and done. Yeah, good Zenith Blade angle there from Arha. The cleanse, just not enough. Leona has multiple stun abilities, and you can only cleanse one.
Yeah, just some, odd mistakes from both sides. Don't necessarily know what On is doing there in the river, not seeing either bot laner, and with very limited vision. And then Karis with that gift of a teleport. So I guess it's all fair, all even between the two of them at this point, and their abilities to siphon gold into the opponents. Still have this first Dragon waiting in the wings. We've pressed it over the 10-minute mark, and it's important to factor in, Quacks, to when we think about Soul even existing in a game like this.
I will say, comparative to games 1 and 2, there isn't really a huge scaling threat that kind of overshadows everything else in the game. I mean, I think the closest thing that we have is probably the Syndra with those Splinters of Wrath, but Even then, it's not super conditional on needing to be met with a Dragon Soul. So I think both of these teams are content with saying, hey, we maybe don't want these squads to be grouping up as 5. That just makes it more difficult for us to find individual picks and individual plays in the lane. Let's try and respect the 1v1s a little bit. Maybe the 2v2s if we're feeling a little bit bold. But beyond that, no sir. No 3v3s or 4v4s. We don't feel comfortable with that just yet.
Yeah, I think Team WE's entire mantra of this game is to avoid that deadly 5v5 where a Galio gets on top of all of you, a Wukong gets on top of all of you, and then a Syndra can just delete one of those members. Especially now that we know that Cuba has such a stranglehold on this top lane. It's definitely an interesting test here for this WE team. It's not a team we usually expect to try and play heavy side lane, play fully for the pick potential, and it's a good test for them to try and get this game 3 over the line. Is here comes that team fight combo and a Justice Punch for Junhao. Down he goes. It was Karis that hijacked that heroic entrance and is now turning it on to TT. Double kill over to About, and he's got the speed ups to try and chase down On, and he's sinking every single bite into that health bar. Karis maybe looking to try and dive with the Abscond of Duck, but they're going to let On off the leash to tell the tale of the turn of Team WE.
It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Team WE when all is said and done. And there's the miasma value that we kind of brought up in the draft. Junhao goes for the initial engage on that fight, but he can't. Is 3-0, already has that Roa complete.
Well, we have an unfortunate pause come through. Did say something interesting about that About build. He has got the Gluttonous Greaves. That's just intriguing. I see the logic, right? You got off to a fast start. You're thinking, yeah, I'm going to keep fighting. I can stack these further, but it does feel weird to say, yeah, that's a mage rocking Gluttonous Greaves. Don't see that every day, Quacks.
I think ever since the nerfs that made it from 1% extra omnivamp, or from 2% extra omnivamp to 1% extra omnivamp comparative to, or like stacking with the kills. A lot of people have been really hesitant to pick up the Gluttonous Greaves, but
totally.
I mean, I still think there's value, especially if you are a comp or a team or a champion that really favors extended trading, where you can actually get multiple stacks of it with multiple abilities. I think that there is a lot of value to be had in that, and Cassiopeia kind of fits the bill. You're really good in the extended trades, and you're able to spam those abilities. So the Omnivamp coming through will actually be of major benefit to you, in my opinion.
But Quacks, now we have some time to go back to a talking point I was trying to have before Junhao went a little too far forward and started a fight that he did not have the firepower to back up. How do we feel about this being like a big test for Team WE trying to get a win in such a comp that we feel like is a little bit away from their intrinsic values, right? Because for everything we see with this WE draft, they're going to avoid like we talked about, those big team fights, and that's what we felt like the bread and butter of Team WE has been all the way back to their split 2 heroics in the playoffs.
I think it's unique because, like you said, they are a team that when they team fight, they can beat the best teams in the LPL. They have shown that time and time again. I think a lot of people think back to Split 2, those close matches against BLG. But here, for me at least, I think it just comes down to the fundamentals of the game that really need to be shining through. And that's something that we have said is a bit of a concern for WE over this split. A lot of their leads, especially in the early game that they build up, are built on sticks and stones. And that's why it's so easy for teams to, in the mid to late game, completely collapse it. Kind of like what we saw in game number 1. So they're going to have to be solid on that here for game 3. We get a replay, and yeah, Miasma, cinematic Galio entrance. Whoa.
That's not Galio, Quacks.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's Silas.
Yeah, that's why I was strict. I was liking the knockup, and then I'm like, wait a minute. That's Junhao getting thrown into the air. Hold on. It's Karis. You know, listen. There's a reason this guy has a Silas that needs to be respected. He always seems to hijack the right ultimate at the right time.
He does, and now I'm interested in how the roaming maintained by these support. We can see they're both in mid, trying to get some priority because we've got Herald in about a minute here. And as we discussed earlier, anything that you can get to further the side lane threat of this Yorick is of major net benefit over to Team WE.
See how well their positioning starts to form around that part of the map. Gonna have Cube back now. They do already have cars up towards the top side. Both of them have teleports, so easy to join the fray if a fight kicks up around the Rift Herald. Does look like just gonna mosey his way back towards the bot side. These are the points, though, where the chess game can definitely be really fun, right? Because Keshi has teleport himself, and we really feel like Rift Herald is going to be where this big fight's coming, Quacks, and the push and pull of York could start to have on a team is really impactful in these scenarios.
And I think Cube has had a really on and off split, on and off year, frankly, in my opinion, much as to the theme of WE as a whole. But one thing that I always think has really shined through for me is his side lane play. I think that his laning phase can sometimes be inconsistent, but he is good at having cross-map pressure. Monkey looking onto Heru potentially, but there's a lot of follow-up, so I think they're just bullying the Galio and trying to get control of this topside river to maybe threaten a Herald.
I mean, you look at Heru's build, and Monkey's definitely the kryptonite to this Galio. Abyssal Mask and those tier 3 magic resist boots are really going to make Monkey the power into Heru. He is starting up the Herald. Off Vision, that ward in the back of the pit, not going to be able to track the HP bar. It's Cube that's making the walk up towards this fight. But TT, they look skittish, but they're TPing their Mega Gnar in here to try and make the fight. It's Arhat's going to flash on top of Junhao, gets the Cyclone down. They put Monkey in the bouncy house and they blow him up. No jungler here for Team WE, and they've caught Karus off to the side as well. TT's team fight finally gets to shine through in the first big bout, and they find all 3 kills onto On as well. TT arriving to our game 3.
WE's comp just crumbles when it comes to 5v5s. Cube.
Oh, Heru, though. Miasma's down. Big scatter comes across from On, and it is able to save his mid laner. Petrifying Gaze does not get a stun. It only has a slow, and Junhao is able to flash away from the ghouls, so they don't give any kills back over to Big Bad About.
It's a little bit sad for About there. Flashes were still available as WE are hoping to at least get a kill, but Keshi's going into Mega and does have Flash, so
he's gone.
He is out of there, and WE don't get anything for all of the transgressions they had to face in the Herald, as we're going to see those transgressions in the replay here. Really good initial disengage there to make the Leona start to the fight less effective for WE. And Monkey was just completely left alone. I mean, Arha at this point had basically exfiltrated the fight. He was separated from his jungler. The rest of WE couldn't really enter the fight either because of the Galio ultimate just zoning them away. So they single out the Pantheon, they find the pick onto him, and that's really all they need.
TWE not disturbed from their last big fight loss. They are on to the second Drake of the game, and will get it with complete ease. Team WE have the first 2 Drakes of the game, and we get another Hextech. How lovely for us. Hextech Soul going to be on the board here, but it is Thunder Talk. They're back ahead in the gold count, and it's a decently significant chunk too. 1,500 gold, and it's actually on to be able to swing ahead of About. Just both these mages with all the gold as Arha hunts with a Solar Flare. Not going to find the snare there. Onto On. It's About, though. Trying to look for more, but the Trickster is going to provide Junhao some safety. The Age of Assault goes down, and the Unleashed Power comes out from On, but far from enough damage to take down the Pantheon.
Monkey forced to flash, though, so does maybe provide an easy target for Feather if he can look for someone to dredge line in the future. And like you were talking about, On with the majority of that gold lead, but also almost all of those kills belong to him as well. 4 out of 5 in the hands of Syndra means that even though Thunder Talk do have a 1,000 gold lead, it's a little bit fickle, in my opinion, because if you can find a pick onto the Syndra, you can really just kind of cut that down to about half, and WE have control of the dragons, so they can easily take control of the map with that threat still alive and well for them.
Yeah.
So your eyes got to be on the Syndra just to see what he can do. He does have Flash and Cleanse, so he can play a little bit further up. It's not like WE. It's a on-site type of thing. They have to be cautious when they engage because not only does he have those summoners, but there is probably also somebody in the corner always constantly waiting to be his shadow and get him out of dodge, like Feather, who I think has done a great job at protecting the Syndra throughout this game.
You know what I haven't seen a great job being done so far through this mid-game, Quacks? Is WE really letting Cube do his thing. That last fight, we saw Cube walk away from bottom lane first, give away lane priority to try and just walk into a fight first. Doesn't get there, he gets out TP'd. And even in that little mid-skirmish we just saw, I watched Cube walk halfway up the river, give away that lane pressure again, and then walk back down. It's part of why I was a little bit worried to see this style of game plan from Team WE, knowing how much they just want to fight as 5. They're pulling Cube back into their normal habits, but I still truly believe the best thing is just leave this guy on his island.
Especially when he's 3-0 like this. It's going to take probably more than one Thunder Talk member to actually deal with this Yorick. So if you just let the pressure he's providing in a side lane marinate a little bit, I think that gives you an opportunity to look for team fights with numbers advantage too. So I agree with you. I would like to see them give a little bit more patience over to the Cube side lane win condition because it doesn't really feel like they have been doing that as of now. Maybe they'll get the opportunity in a couple of minutes here with the dragon spawning.
Whew. On is starting to do work here, though. A couple of spheres take a lot of About's health down there. Could be a trade of turrets, but I like Thunder Talk's end of it a lot more here, Quacks. So valuable to get that mid-tier one of all, especially for when we talk about vision lines and moving them up more aggressively into enemy jungles.
I agree. I will say, you know, this is a much less bloody game than what we've had in this series so far, Slayer. I gotta say, part of me is slightly disappointed. We said we wanted to see like a straight-up MMA fight come through here as the finale to 2 teams. I think we were really excited to cast in comparison to one another just because of how stylistically similar they are, but we haven't been seeing the just the raw, unfiltered aggression from them so far. There's been moments of craziness, but nothing too concrete.
No, not yet, but we could see that all ignite around this Hextech Drake, our first one of the game towards the Hextech Soul in about a minute's time here. I'm curious to see. Yep, Team W are going to make a move before it. They once again want to go after Keshi, but the timing feels weird. They're diving 4 members, but he's getting Meganar, and this is a TP from Haru to spoil it. So a full overload from Team WE gets what? A teleport out of a Galio with ultimate?
And now look at the result of that. You've got Thunder Talk pushing in mid. There's a wave in bot lane, and that's in favor of TT2. Feather is now moving into the bot side river to establish vision on that part of the map. So it feels like WE don't really have a ton of horse in this race. They'll be going into the bot side river unprepared and frankly understaffed. You can see that Arha is trying to move in, but you don't have your Yorick. And Karis is even slightly desynced from you.
I'm surprised that TT full reset off of that position. Maybe someone was able to get an item, but this feels weird. TT kind of just let WE back in the door towards this dragon conversation. At least, like you mentioned, they had the Scuttle Crab vision, so there was no way to kind of sneak this for Team WE, and now they're going to cede control back over to Thunder Talk. Both top laners are here again. Keshi needs to stack up that Gnar bar. As the engagement Marha goes into a double taunt. Everyone compounding on top of each other. Har gets blown up first. Junhao gets a Cyclone, tries to flash over the wall, but W will follow until Keshi throws them into a wall and bounces on top of them for 1. Karis does find the trade, though. On needs to connect with his mid laner, but he's far too low. And Cube with the ghouls will just run down Haru. Team WE able to win a full-on 5-on-5.
A really good counterattack there to start up the fight by WE. The miasma makes sure that they don't leave. And then the stolen shove from Karis to deal so much initial damage. Yeah, we got to see a replay of this. So they can't move at all. 3 of them get hit. And the fight just kind of gets split up here. I mean, Junhao is completely isolated. TT try to regroup. I think it's a really good shove from Keshi to try and turn this play back around, but Haru is too low and frankly doesn't have the damage. You're going more of a facilitative role as this Galio in this game with the build that he's been, you know, throwing down here. So the moment your carries die, it kind of feels like Haru has nothing left to do except provide CC that will not be followed up on. So I think that is the negative side to building like this as this champion. But WE win out on the fight. They get themselves the 3rd dragon. Soul Point is now here for them. And I think ThunderTalk, they've got good team fighting, but it doesn't really feel like the damage Slayer is being provided other than on. Really, I think the Syndra really is your only hope to turn these 5v5s around.
It was definitely a worry from draft, and further exacerbated by the fact that Junhao is, you know, behind the 8 ball when it comes to this jungle matchup. He is finally Thunder Sky and Triforce, so it's decent damage, but we've seen him not really be able to get towards that Cassiopeia as that main target. I think that's a great call out, Quacks, that might kind of dispel the doom of ThunderTalk, is they are all about on one-shotting one person in particular, but Monkey can scrap with a longer fight, Karis can, and you already mentioned how a Cassiopeia from about loves a fight the longer it goes.
Karis going to be able to get more gold for himself on that top side as the inner, or outer, rather, I should say, turret on that lane does go down. And really, I love that the WE top side is playing as aggressively as they are in this game. We highlighted them as something so special, such a big reason why people love this WE squad. And I think we've had up and down performances from them over the course of tonight, Slayer. I don't think that is really disputable, but I think here in game number 3, they are coming together. They've got a lot of gold, and they are certainly doing better than their counterparts. I think Monkey is really stepping up compared to Junhao, who, like we said, both of these junglers, the big engines for their team, but one is clearly roaring louder.
And he is not intending to rev down anytime soon, as the Baron setup has begun. WE, though, really making it a point to try and grab this last outer turret, this mid lane tier 1, because it does make these warding missions a bit more treacherous, right? Gives a bit more escapism towards TT on really both sides of the jungle. But still gonna be pretty pesky. On at this point with the items he has, wave clears pretty darn well with a full combo into the wave. So it's gonna take something more than just hoping that you can get a timer on that mid-tier 1 to take it down. They're gonna try and settle to play into their strength, which has always been these side lanes. Keshi has a pretty hard time matching into Cube by this point, and Karis is pretty formidable into Haru. So side lanes definitely feels like the success story going forward here for Team WE.
And again, I think Cube is still in a position where he's really strong. He's level 17. And the only person on ThunderTalk that's even remotely close to him in levels is Keshi, who's 1 in 3. So you're probably going to need to send more than one guy to deal with him. As speaking of more than one guy,
it's everybody. Trickster not going to get June out of trouble. He gets stunned up by the Solar Flare. Justice Punch does land as the turn gets on to on. Gets himself out of dodges. Keshi throws 2 members into the wall. Garis comes out of the stasis, but he is able to dash away from Keshi as Monkey is losing his 1v1 to Haru off to the side. It's pandemonium on all fronts, but Cube slams down the spade into the heart of On to make it a 2-for-1. At least one back over to Team WE.
And mid-turret to follow. WE opening up even more of the map. Less than a minute until the dragon as well. That is a huge deal. It just makes it so difficult for ThunderTalk to approach this dragon that's coming up. And On with a big mispositioning error to start out that fight, in my opinion. Walks up, throws down Scatter the Weak, but that immediately gets punished here. I mean, you can see, even now, he's like, how am I going to walk up to this fight? I've got no way to peel off. Arhan knows this, and immediately Zenith Blades onto him. He doesn't really have a ton of follow-up, but just a couple of abilities onto the Syndra, and they're basically taken out of commission. So TT automatically lose their biggest source of damage. They still manage to get some kills back in return, but that is really bad because now there's no cleanse for On going into this fight. Still does have that flash, though.
It's just so tough to see TT throw down all their damage, and then it feels impossible to close out the kills. Karis was 150 HP, slammed up against a wall, and he's able to get just enough time to get the Kingslayer healing and get out of what felt like certain doom. And now TT are going to have to walk into WE as they do find the Solar Flare. Lockdown onto Feather. Justice Punch has to come through with the heroic entrance from Haru, but now he becomes the target as Junhao gets into the back line. Feather is going to be the first casualty as Arha marks Junhao, and the rest of Team WE turns on the pounds. Keshi doesn't have the Mega Gnar up until he finally gets a 3-man Gnar ultimate, but where's your team, bro? They're all scattered into the wind as About locks down 4 kills for Team WE and a Hextech Soul in Game 3.
Keshi shove looked cool. Got 4 people into a wall, but he was all alone, like you said, Slayer. WE single out certain members of TT, and they take them down 1 by 1. Dragon Soul secured. Baron next on the menu. The only person left up and available after that exchange is going to be Haru, and he can do nothing about this Nasher. WE running away with this game and looking poised to take the series.
Hextech Soul with a Baron is as sweet as a key lime pie in this one. We'll get a replay look back.
Oh, don't bait me like that.
I know, Quax. That one was just for you. Again, though, I hate to sound like a broken record. Where's the damage here for Thunder Talk, Quax?
Right, I know. I mean, Feather goes down, but he's taken so low. He basically like goes back in to try and provide some CC. Junhao then, he's completely isolated. So it is Feather isolated. They get a ton of damage onto him. Junhao isolated. They kill him, and then Keshi isolated, and he goes down. So TT, they just march in 1 by 1 by 1, and WE take them down 1 by 1 by 1. Get themselves the soul. The Baron now on all 3 lanes, they are using that buff. You can see that Cube is on the top side pushing. A nice 1-3-1 split is on Summoner's Rift here, and it's because of that global pressure. Monkey can react to any play that Thunder Talk might dare to make if they overload a side lane.
So hard to slow down this 3-point attack. Keshi and Junhao both together are trying to get rid of this wave. They'll at least save their bottom lane tier 2 turret, but you called it out. You simply cannot leave a Baroned up Yorick alone to the devices of your turrets on the top side. The push and pull, it's honestly masterful to look at here from Team WE as they surgically get rid of all turrets outside the walls of the Thunder Talk base.
And look at what Thunder Talk, behind the Syndra, don't really have any amazing wave clear. Right? So it's very difficult for them to actually stop this siege. And like we just said, they can't overload to try and fight. They've not only got no damage in that department, but there's a Pantheon wanting them to do that, basically daring them to try and look for a play. This is just slow suffocation. Frankly, kind of depressing for the side of TT. They really are out of options, it feels like.
Depressing for Thunder Talk fans, methodical for Team WE by this point. Top lane is wide open, courtesy of Cube. And Monkey's just standing here, ushering in waves, and now Cube can join in with his jungler. TT starting to get better options at targets, but look at this last shift effort. That's a very Aaron depth charge. Keshi was down to half HP by the maiden herself. Hero's entrance comes in, but it's only Monkey to get knocked up, and he has a GA. Justice Punch forward is really audacious here from Haru. It's Karis off to the side, but he has the stasis as he gets turned on from TT. Expert bait there from Karis. And now the base is in crumbles, and this will be the final march for Team WE.
Karis has teleport as well. He's going to come back to the fight at full HP. Keshi is close to Mega.
Needs to find an otherworldly Gnar ultimate to make a difference here. And it's Monkey that goes in first. Karis to follow after. Keshi does not get the Gnar ultimate. It's hijacked by Captain Karis to say goodnight to Thunder Talk. Back from a Game 1 woe, Team WE will find the series win over Thunder Talk to move to 4 series wins in Split 3.
WE 4-2 now in Group Ascend, like you said. And Karis there adding insult to injury, basically looking at Keshi dead in the eyes and saying, my Gnar shove is cooler and better than yours, as they blow up the Nexus. Really great stuff from WE. A bit of a suspect game number 1, but games 2 and 3, Slayer, I would say were pretty convincing for them.
I would tend to agree with you there, Quacks. What a bounce back here for Team WE. It's such an impressive spot to be in. 4-2 so far in Group Ascent here. And, you know, to make the joke, that's a very big improvement from 1-13 Team WE. So
New Sensodyne Expert Repair contains Novomin. The Novomin repairs sensitive teeth by creating a reparative layer over the sensitive areas, and it starts to do this in just 2 minutes. Try new Sensodyne Expert Repair. It works.
And, you know, 400% more faith. I feel like with every single win, the WE, hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it, just grows ever stronger as we got the dueling roller coasters graphic up one more time. I think after this game, we can put the like up part for WE slightly higher, and then maybe TT can go slightly lower. Because frankly, I mean, for Thunder Talk now, you're 1-5. And although you have had a majority of those series go to 3 games, it doesn't matter if you can't, you know, get to the finish line first. I think people are going to start coining Thunder Talk as maybe potential man, because they keep going to game 3 but never actually being able to follow through.
Oh, that's not a fun place to be in. And Quacks, it's a good time to bring it up, right? Because thank you. We've got there's
all
the
right.
TT. That's the TT. Or I guess wait okay. I see it. I see the vision. All right. I like it. I like it. Here's the unfortunate prospect here for Thunder Talk team that, again, I want to say has put together some, you know, good tape at times in Group Ascend. 1-5, you're getting pretty close to having to be, you know, likely bottom 2. And bottom 2 means, of course, the play-ins for playoffs. And what are the realities right now? Quacks playing the reformed IG super team. The way Phoenix playing, it might be worth saying that. And then, or an NIP team that looks pretty darn scary. So I really don't want to be in the play-in if I'm anybody in Group Ascend.
And if play-ins from split number 2 taught me anything, it's surely that anything can happen. I mean, absolute. That was probably in a split with Insanity as the main theme. I would say that was probably the most insane thing that I saw. So that just goes to show and backs up your point, Slayer, that the play-ins is never a place you want to be finding yourself in. And I agree with you. I think Thunder Talk, if they're 1-5 at this point, it just means that they have to shape up, step up really fast. Because once you start going into that second round robin, playoffs indications are going to start being talked about, and seeding is going to start being a conversation. I think as the weeks go by, the clock obviously is going to keep on running out. So Thunder Talk, those flashes of brilliance need to become more than just flashes. They need to become the actual ray of light that is constantly beaming in the faces of the opponents that they're playing against. Because I think that when this team looks good, they actually look really good. But unfortunately, it just feels like those moments are too far between. And for WE, it just kind of feels like they were better on the day. But there was potential from Thunder Talk.
You're better once they, you know, woke up, I guess is a good way to put it for sure. And for Thunder Talk, again, it's easy to come away with negative connotation of 1-5, but one of the final things I want to say is, you mentioned it, they've had games where they've looked so dominant. It's just about dissecting the tape where that doesn't happen and figure out better ways to put that one together for Thunder Talk. So that's the positive spin I would have here, but for the whole Cube, of course. Hello. But for the whole battle between 2 top 5 junglers in the LPL, unfortunately, Junhao, you have been fathered by Monkey. It's okay though. That's happened to a lot of the junglers around these parts.
It has been. I think Monkey really, when you think about Monkey, I think this guy has simultaneously one of the lowest floors of any Ascend jungler, but one of the highest ceilings. Like there truly is like a ton. You ever see those like multi-million-dollar houses where the ceiling is like 50 feet up in the air and it's like a super wide open box? That's basically Monkey if he was like if someone was sculpting Monkey as a house, that would be Monkey. He's got like the highest ceiling ever, but damn, is his floor super duper low. And I think in this series, he definitely was closer to his ceiling. A lot of proactive plays, especially on that Vi in game number 2. He was looking for invades at every opportunity. That was a really fun game from him. Felt like a very vintage Monkey game.
Vintage Monkey series indeed. I would say as holistically talking about your lower floor, because game 1 had some interesting queries, but hey, it doesn't matter now. It's the 2-1 win here. Our toughest task left here, Quacks, is to try and discern where we think MVP voting is going to go. Because I fear, Quacks, you're going to have to carry the heavy lifting here. I'm going to throw you a bit into the wild. I think you could argue 3 different players on this Team WE team deserve a shout for MVP.
Yeah, for series, I probably throw... Oh, for game, I would say...
We'll go game and then series. How about that?
Right, yeah. I think for game, I would actually give it to Cube. For series, I don't know. I don't really feel like About had a really stinker game number 1.
It was pretty good game 2 and 3, though.
Had a pretty good game 2 and 3, though. I don't think Karis was any better than About, to be honest with you. Some good games, some bad games. I would give it to Monkey. I know there's some jungle bias here, but I think that every single play and every single ahead member of Team WE was made possible because Monkey kept on putting pedal to the metal, being aggressive, and doing his thing.
I like the logic. That is very sound. I think it depends a bit on where the player of the game goes. I want to say for player of the series, I think it's going to land on Karis. I would pick Karis. But I could see them going Monkey, especially if maybe About gets player of the game here, because I do think this Cassio was monstrous. That second to last fight we saw, he actually zoned 2 people off on his own. It just wasn't in picture because we were watching Keshi alone. The reason that happened was About. So we'll see where everything decides to land here. Definitely a lot of fun variants, but the thing that is very positive for Team WE here is that we feel like Monkey played a pretty good series and he could be in contention for it, but I gotta continue to state that Karis playing up to this level really makes this team exciting, and then if we can get more big games out of About like that Game 2 Lucian, like this team goes from being a single threat squad we thought for so long into multi-threat, and hey, look at that, the one guy I didn't mention, Cube, does end up getting player of the game for what was a very good Yorick.
And I think we said it in game, but Cube, the laning phase from him is never something that I think is talked about for good reason. It does feel like in terms of mechanics, Cube is nothing super special most of the time, but I do think in a department that he thrives in, one department that he always seems to be really well versed in is the side lane play. I think that his macro is very good, and it's because of the experience that he brings to the team. So I think any champion that can play into those strengths is good on him, and Yorick absolutely is one of them. So really good performance from him. Didn't have anything too flashy in the laning phase. Didn't have any crazy big solo bolo kills or, anything of that nature, but the pressure that he exerted, the difficulty for ThunderTalk to be answering him, I think was something that really just kind of picked them apart as the game time kept running.
I agree wholeheartedly there, Quacks. I just did not expect him to get 6 out of 8 votes, and I didn't expect About to not get a single one. I can't complain, but I think About, the accolades aren't going to reflect how much of a great turnaround he had in this series. And to further illustrate the point on how well About played, you were talking about how him and On are still like a little iffy on the mages. Homie, About looked pretty well-versed in the Cassio. That was a very good performance, but we'll see now. We're just waiting out to see where player of the series lies as our final little accolade, and then we'll start thinking forward to the rest. All right, you know what? I'll take that win.
There you go.
Guys, there we go. Captain Karis, player of the match. Well-deserved. I even think some of the RE plays he was able to make in that Game 1 loss were pretty flashy, and we've already talked endlessly about his impact in the wins here, Quacks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this just goes to show you can have maybe one of the worst Twisted Fate ultimates of your career and still win Series MVP. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
There you go, Quacks.
Lesson of the day.
I'm at the finish line of my night. You were at the halfway point. What would we say? 13.1 miles, right? 26.2 is a marathon.
Right.
So you're halfway there by that point. But you know what's most fun here, Quacks, besides the fact that IG are about to play in front of a lot of their fans up against LNG next. The most important thing here, Quacks, is that we are continuing full Salt Mine podcast coverage here at the LPL English. Because, folks, I will be stepping out for the illustrious, the amazing Gordo, who will be coming on in here alongside Quacks to carry you guys into Group Nirvana. So make sure to give him a warm welcome on the other side of this extended break.